Ahojte moji milí druháci, vítam vás na ďalšej hodine, ktorú máme nahratu. No, čo na úvod, to čo vždy, decka, takže máte zavesené otázky alebo nejakú výzvu, tiež nahrávam dopredu, takže ešte neviem, čo sa vás idem pýtať. No, samozrejme už dúfam, že ste aj zodpovedali, ja vám stíham popri tom reagovať, takže nemal by byť žiadny problém. Vy samozrejme máte otvorené vaše zadania a myslím, že vám to dosť pomôže, keď budete popri tom si písať, sledovať poznámky a do toho rovno ísť. Dobre, ja mám samozrejme ešte deň pred 22., takže je na vás, no ale my poďme ďalej. Dnes budeme pokračovať v téme, ktorú máme potom po tej úvodnej prezentácii, čiže ak by sme išli v tých poznámkach zo stredoveku celkovo, že Middle Ages, tak máme Early Middle Ages, čiže raný stredovek, no a my sme si prešli tú charakteristiku, to je táto prezentácia. No a ďalšiu tému, ktorú máme, ešte nie sú Slovania, tých si prejdeme nakoniec tejto témy a budeme asi najviac aj o nich rozprávať, tak sú to ríše raného stredoveku. Vy máte poznámky wordové, ktoré máte zavesené a máte ich v podstate asi v takejto forme. Obrázky samozrejme tradične môžu byť vždy vo väčšom, vždy ich tam môže byť viac, pretože ich priebežne samozrejme doplňam. No a takisto som aj stihol spraviť prezentáciu, podľa ktorej ja pôjdem. Ale samotné poznámky, ten obsah, roky, mená, krajiny, informácie, ktoré vy tie hlavne potrebujete, tak máte v tejto prezentácii. Ale tá sa v podstate v ničom nelíši od toho, čo je v tých wordových poznámkach. Takže ja by som išiel na túto prezentáciu, sám som zvedavý, ako bude vidno. Ak by nebolo vidno nejaké úryvky, tak sa netrápte, zase treba si len pozrieť v tom wordovom zadaní, že čo je tam napísané. Bohužiaľ mi tabulátor nefunguje, že by som tu moju hlavu dal na chvíľku preč, takže skúsime takto. OK, so what's the topic for today? The Empires of Early Middle Ages, čiže ríše raného stredoveku. Ja som aj rozmýšľal, či to nazvať ríša, pretože ríšami boli oficiálne dve, aj to iba do určitého obdobia jedna z nich. Kalifát ťažko, či za ríšu, ale v podstate charakterizuje na tú definíciu ríša ako empire, čo sme hovorili. No a early medieval realm, to je lepšie také realm, že kráľovstvo, pánstvo, územie, na ktorým sa vládne. Takže toto je fajn. So, what are these? Empire doesn't have to be an empire just like after Romans, just like Byzantine Empire in here, which is Eastern Roman Empire actually. It can be proclaimed later like Holy Roman Empire of Germany, of German nation, which is Francia, but after its dissolution, which will be this territory, and eventually the biggest would be the Arabic Caliphate that we are going to start with. Of course, you got some studying materials. That is book that you don't have, but in case you can get to, so it's also useful textbooks that we have at in the classroom at school, so unfortunately cannot use it. So Google, Wikipedia, author, that's me, and some books in here. I added this one because I use many pictures from it, so they deserve to be used. Okay, so when we need to speak about the first one, about the Arabic Caliphate, we need to understand the creation, emergence of, at the time, brand new religion, and today one of the biggest world religion, which is Islam. Islam is today one of four main world religions that you are going to learn about at civic education. The followers, which are more than 1 billion people, are called Muslims. It is monotheistic religion, you know that there is a God, there is the God, which is actually the same God as in Christianity or in Judaism, but in Arabic language, it's the word for the God is Allah. So when somebody mentioned Allah, and when Minyo Mazurek was offending this Saudi Arabian family, they're attacking them with stones and cobblestones in the train station during big march of neo-Nazi and hooligans groups. He actually was offending the God generally only like for the Arabs, so that was the thing. Still, Islam is a bit different from it, and that's why you have, in my opinion, very interesting task that I believe you are not going to copy from your classmates. And if I see similar, or actually same diagrams, as it was like half of you had the same diagram of these philosophers and scholars, so I just count down like minus 10%. Okay, so be sure you do it like on yourself, by yourselves. This was actually combination of local animistic cults. What does it mean, animistic? Anime, it's in Latin, it means soul. So those are religion or cults, beliefs, which believe in immortal soul, that after the death, soul is transferred to some other place, some divine, I don't know, place, or it can be reincarnated and so on. In this case, they had similar, just like Jews or Hebrews or Christians, that soul goes to some place. Of course, it will not be heaven in this Christian type, but that would be Eden. Eden or Gardens of Eden, a similar place. Also to Greek paradise or afterworld where you are like happy and so on. But later on they added this like 77 virgins and so on. Of course there is hell too. The main devil in hell is called Shaytan in Arabic, and it's Satan for this. Still, the religion itself is based upon teachings of Judaism and Christianity. But how it happened, it's interesting thing. Still, it emerged in desert areas of contemporary current Saudi Arabia, and people who developed this the Quran and this Muslim teaching are ethnic Arabs, which belong to Semitic ethno-linguistic group, similar to Israeli people today, and so on. And we have the guy here, the founder, who is supposed to be like the founder of the religion, whose name is Muhammad. Muhammad, supposed to be the prophet, lived in the second half of the 6th century. And actually he died just the year when Samo state was in like on power. He was a merchant from Mecca, which is town in Saudi Arabia, and he was illiterate like many people of those times. And he became rich because he married some widow and so on. But one day during his travels, he went to the mountain nearby Mecca, nearby the town. And when he came back, he started telling people that an archangel appeared to him. That was either Archangel Gabriel or Archangel Michael. Michael, who's are like common creatures, divine creatures in the Bible, in Christian Bible. Still, they told him about some God's ideas. That the main point was that just like Jews and Christians, even more, they misinterpreted the words of God, and even the prophets that God sent to them, like Moses or Jesus Christ. So people actually changed their words and changed the meaning, and both religions became something different that he claimed. I said it must be much more easier to understand. People should understand the words and claim some things. And because he was illiterate when he came back, so he dictated. Of course, there were many of them. So Muhammad used to go up the hill alone, only alone, and coming back, he was dictating more and more sentences to the holy book. That is someone like the holy book of Islam, which is called the Quran. In our transcription, it's used as well with K, not with Q. And this book is it's not like the Bible or Talmud. More like Torah, I would say. Torah is one part that says about like how you should live and some recommendation, like guideline for your life. And in this way, there are no any stories, behind it. So just like be good, help the poor, okay? Go to pilgrimage, okay, to some holy place, for example. Sometimes that's the reason that also like the Bible even more, but the Quran sometimes is being even today misinterpreted. How did he mean it? The other thing is that it was like 6th century AD. It was like early Middle Ages, like only like 100 years, not even 1 century after the fall of West Roman Empire. So the ethics, the moral was very different. So that's why also it can be misinterpreted, and so for some people claim to be like different. But for many other people, still valid, like the Bible or Talmud, and giving you some nice guideline how to live. Still, it was not very successful. Most people in the city didn't believe him, didn't trust him. So majority of people claim that he's a liar. And in 622 AD, Muhammad was banished from Mecca. and he decided to travel to the north to another city, because this is Mecca in here, and he would travel to Medina, which is about 360 kilometers to the north, where he actually had this marriage with this widow that I mentioned, and he gained some influence and money from the marriage to raise up army and come back to Mecca. Still, this departure or leaving or banishing from Mecca is supposed to be the milestone for Muslims and for Arabs, like the beginning of something new that is not only dictating, writing the Quran, the holy book, but spreading it around, spreading it among the people. And that's why they start to call this event, they start to call it the Hijrah, which they start to count also year 1, since that actually year 0 for that time. And that is the beginning of the Muslim era, Muslim calendar. So again, you can count what is the year in Muslim countries or Arabic countries, that if they use this calendar. Not, of course, just like Jews or Chinese. Most of them, because of computers and industrial revolution, they use mostly this European Christian calendar that is accepted today. Okay, so the Hijrah is in here, and actually next year they will have anniversary. Arabs will have anniversary, big anniversary of Hijrah. So probably there will be many of celebrations. Actually, this is also one of a few pictures where Muhammad is depicted, but as you see, his face is covered. It's not like his wife, but in a Muslim canon, it means artistic depiction. It is banned to depict the face of God, of archangels, of Muhammad himself, because non-human is so great artist, is such a great artist to depict and draw and depict these like divine creatures or Muhammad as a prophet so exactly that it's not funny or offending. So that's why also it explains that for many radical Muslims it is of course forbidden to depict him like this. It's one of rare pictures from early Middle Ages depicts his departure from Medina to Mecca, because in after 8 years, Muhammad, when he gathered a big army enough, a couple of hundreds of thousand men, soldiers, so he attacked Mecca, because it's still for him it was the place where the archangel appeared to him, and still even for these local Arabic tribes, nomadic tribes, it was like a holy place. I shall explain further on. So he claimed Mecca with his army and proclaimed it like a new holy place for Muslims, so they can travel there and go there. So now Islam started to spread very quickly, and it was because it was very simple. I will show you some of the doctrines, some of the dogmas that are there, and it was very easy. If you learn to read and write, because he himself, Muhammad, was illiterate, but he supported other people to study, to learn. He said that one of the mistakes the Jews and Christians did was that many people couldn't read and write, and thus couldn't read the Bible, couldn't read the books, the holy word, the words of God. And humans, nevertheless, that it was a pope or priest, but they changed it. And in the councils, Christians, they decided whether Jesus was a god, demigod, or a human, for example. For them, it was not important. It was important to read the Bible and understand maybe Evangelium. That, for example, Muhammad respected. For them, Moses, for Jews, and Jesus were both the prophets of Islam, the prophets of the same God, Jehovah, Allah, the God, Boh. But people just misinterpreted those words. So they tried to make it very simple. And if you read and write, you had the Quran and you remembered only praying, so it gave you enough power. And the moral code and behavior code, what to do, how to become a good believer and go to Eden or to heaven to be saved. Like your soul should be saved. It was so popular at the time. It supported cooperation. It didn't matter whether you were Arab, later on a Jew, European, whether you were Persian or a black guy from African kingdoms. It didn't matter. If you were once a Muslim, you were equal to anybody else. So that was the thing, and they had to have like something that is called Summa, and and it's kind of community, and within the community you should have you should help the others. That's why it's supposed also this solidarity, that if somebody is, I don't know, in a bad condition, for example, there is a widow with many kids, so the others, of course women, would help her. Okay, if there is some beggar of somebody who is disabled, so you have to do it. Short interruption, guys, sorry. Okay, Sandra is greeting you. Okay, guys, Alexandrush. Sorry for short interruption. For you, it was nothing. Of course, for me, it was nice. Yeah, she's ill, so she had to stay at home. So, but she's nice and polite and not disturbing me so much. Okay, guys. So let's go back. Solidarity. The other thing is education. When they could read and write, so you could read the Quran, and there was no any need for imams, for the priests of Islam, to abuse you. Of course, even today, you can explain many sentences in various way, and it really depends whether these imams are supported by state or not. And that's why even today in many Muslim countries there are really big differences. Whether you are in Turkey, among not such a strict believers, more secular people, or if in Saudi Arabia, it's very different to listen to a Muslim from Qatar and Muslim from Indonesia. Okay, so it is also, some are more open-minded countries like Morocco or maybe Jordan, Lebanon, and so on, but the others are different, like Oman. Okay, so the other thing is, so education was important, and especially for our period that we are talking about, this was really interesting because that made Arabs very different from any Christians and even Jews, because most of people could read and write. They were literate. Hygiene. When you are educated, you understand many things. Together with them is medicine, some kind of protection, and it became actually one of a crucial thing and very different for Christians. That Christians used to take bath like twice a year, before Easter and before Christmas, and that was all. Sometimes not even that, like one maybe in the summer. But it was by church tried to follow that people should not like reveal their bodies, you know. Of course, they had also strict moral and so on, but they had to keep hygiene, especially in these desert areas. It is interesting. So you have to spare water and keep hygiene, despite there was not enough water for everybody. Okay, so what are the basic principles? There are so-called five pillars of Islam, or five pillars of faith in Islam. In this picture, there are big Shahada, Salah, Zakat, Psalm, and Hajj. And it is interesting in the pictures, as you can see, it's also symbolism. What is the meaning? So, first one, if you want to become a Muslim, and just let God know that you are like going this path, this way, you have to say confession of faith. Shahada means that you just repeat 3 or 5 times a sentence. There is no other God, only Allah, and Muhammad was his prophet. When you repeat it like 5 or 3 times, then from the in the eyes of the God, you are Muslim. You are a believer. Okay, so this is the thing, and it's very easy. Compare it to Christians, that you need to be baptized, you need to have communions, so it's not so easy, you know. You had to convert, and in Middle Ages or in early modern era, many people were being tortured, killed, burned at stakes for not being proper Christians, proper branch of Christianity. So it is really bad thing only because of their heritage. For Jews, you need to have Jewish father. So or mother, I'm not sure right now. So even when one whole country, that is actually in the map, Khazar Empire, should go back for a while. In this way, Khanate of the Khazars, they were nomadic tribe in nowadays Russia, but at the time they were more like, I don't know, Asian combination. But one day they decided, their king, their Khan, decided to go to monotheistic religion and he picked up Judaism. But of course, other Jews from other countries didn't respect them because it was not like they inherited. They just decided to build mosques and so on. In this case, it was much easier to become a Muslim, and despite what you believe from the points of view of the state power of Arabic Caliphate, it was not such a big problem, such a big deal. So it's very easy to become a Muslim like in this way. The other is Salah. Salah is officially that you have to pray 5 times a day, and you have to bow down towards the Mecca. So for that reason, they needed to know astronomy, geography to get oriented, to have also sense of navigation in the seas, for example. And there was imam who was like a priest who in the mosque meshita from the tower called minaret, so he was singing out prayers. And you probably, if you been in some of these Muslim countries, so you heard it like a couple of times per day. And those who are really like believers, so they stop for a while and pray and bow, they go to the mosque and so on. uh, there was interesting, funny part in the movie Robin Hood in 1991 when it was cloudy, dark sides of Britain, and Robin Hood had a friend, great, depicted by Morgan Freeman. He wanted to pray because he believed it was the day of time, but because it was cloudy, he couldn't see sun anywhere. So, and the Robin Hood didn't want to tell him, and so he was really scared that he will not go to heaven, to Eden, for that reason. So this is also something about like respect, and probably you've seen. Okay, so mosques, minarets, imams, and prayers of Salah. Okay, the other thing is that you probably also heard about is Ramadan. Ramadan is a holy month that is a fast since the sunrise till sunset for about these 28 or 30 days. Usually this Ramadan is also set according to moon and a couple of other things. Just like with Easter, I'm really not sure how they count what date it should be, what date it should be. But as you know, we have this end of like middle of winter, and then we have these 40 days till Easter. And you Christians, Roman Catholics, they have to, or evangelicals, they had to fast, postica. And this is interesting because Muslims said it, yeah, you have to do it. It's actually very useful because you just spare food. Some people made it like not so fat and so on. But the point in here in Muslim is that it cannot be during the time when the sun is in the sky. So since the morning, they couldn't eat and even drink anything. There are actually exceptions for children, for sick people, for old people, and even today for soldiers and for sportsmen, let's say footballers or athletes. So in this way, when they have this, so it's really difficult. So many people are really weak during these 4 weeks. And but when the sun goes down, when there is a sunset, so they have already prepared like a big dinner, and whole family sit together and have this. Why I pick up this interesting, for me, interesting picture, because we probably have no chance to see Muslim families, and actually they're in Bosnia Herzegovina, Albania, and Europe too. In Germany, many Turks are living and so on. Algerians in France, and they have really like special feast, holiday food, and all the family gets together and they drink lemonades, have like a very tasty meals, and they have a lot of fun and they play games and they sit together. So it's like a whole month of like Christmas, but during the day you have to be like calm and keep like Shabbat for Jews, for Christians, that on Sunday you should not work, for example, and you should have like nice big dinner. Okay, so it's like tradition from your maybe mom, grandmom. So this is something similar, that once you have to sit together like a family, but then again you have to fast for a while, to suffer for a little. This also, they got a lot of leftovers, and that's why there is, apart uh, from this psalm, so they have also zakat. Zakat means that you should help the poor, and when you have spare food, you just give it to those who don't have. They can be just like bad lucky in the business. There can be like some tragic events in your lives that may happen, and Muslims will, when something bad happened to you, they know that you like struggle, for example, so they invite you to have dinner with them, or they just bring you food, some rice and so on. This is something that was really common also among Christians, among Jews, like to help the others, to offer the travelers. This is something that many people are really surprised, for example, traveling in Iran or Indonesia, that people who are really poor are willing to offer you, provide you shelter, food, and give you from your own, because like maybe you know this word also in Slovakia, že host do domu, Boh do domu. So helping the others, the unknown, the travelers, the strangers, like helping old granny that can help you, or maybe the God in disguise, you never knows. And it's something like doing something good for no purpose. It is actually very helpful even for your soul, for your mind. So actually this kind of solidarity that was not so common at the beginning, Christians, yes, it was. Then again, maybe in the poorer region, more hospitable people are. That's pohostini. So this is really interesting, and help this community, the Summa, to keep together, despite like different languages, different maybe colors of their skin, their origins, and so on. So this is interesting. And finally, Hajj. Hajj, and you cannot see it because there is my face. There is actually another picture of Mecca, so I can maybe just move it a bit like here. Okay, and also to show, but maybe show you like this. Sorry. So I have to find a proper place for the picture. Okay, so maybe just put it forward. Yeah, that would be a bit better. Okay, and what I mean, guys, is that yeah, sorry for that. What I mean that once in a lifetime, if you can afford to spare some money to go for a pilgrimage, čiže ísť na pútnu cestu to Mecca. Why to Mecca? Because when Muhammad died, his leftovers, bones, were stored in four most important mosques of Islamic world. That was in Jerusalem, in Mecca, in Medina, and one more. I have to check it out. There is Isfahan or Samarkand or some other places because they were moved from one place to another. The one is in here, and gradually here in Saudi Arabs they build like huge mosque around with a huge square in the middle, and crowds of pilgrims, putnici, are coming from all the world. They go here and they walk around this black cube. Can you see it? It's a black kind of structure or a house with no roof. Nobody knows what is actually inside, but they believe, according to this, in the Muhammad times, there was a place where there was, they call it a star stone. So we think that probably there is some meteorite or something fallen. So, like previous ancestors of Arabs, they had like this stone as a kind of like idol, and there was this like wooden or whatever house built around it, and it's called Kaaba. And here, when they come to this square of the mosque, so Muslims have to walk 7 times around Kaaba and pray. So there are like rotation, and then people go out from the other side. And minarets around with the prayers. Of course, during Ramadan, it's even more, and there is specific time for this Hajj. Of course, this is forgiven whether if you have no chance to travel, if you don't have money, don't have access possibilities. Of course, many people are from poor countries, so they are just bad luck for this. Okay, let's move on, guys. Let's move on. So what I said, after the death of Muhammad, Muslims were divided into two branches according to their support to one of his successors. The reason was that Muhammad, just like any other man of those times, had more wives. He actually, apart from this widow, he also married to Aisha, that was young girl, and he had other like kids with her. Today, he would definitely supposed to be the pedophile, but that was the same thing for merchant Samuel. That at those times, Samuel had 12 wives of Slavic tribal union, and probably they just waited until girls were like 12 or 13. The first period, and from the point of view of biology, they are supposed to be women. So for that kind, of course, from our point of view, that would be really terrible, but it was Middle Ages. It was common thing in Middle Ages that, like, not even teenagers, like early teenagers, had some marriages together, and it's people expected them to have kids already. Actually, the thing is that the head of Muslims is called Caliph, and the thing is that Muhammad was not only the head of this state that they start to create in Mecca and Medina, that we will call the country, and they call it Caliphate, but also spread it further. And Caliph at the same time was actually the messenger from God. And this is the thing that now Muslims divided in two branches, whether they believe that which one of the side is from Muhammad's one part of the family or the other. And in this way, they also believe whether these caliphs had kind of like divine right to rule above them. The others said no, because they believe that the others can too. So in this way, they divide it in two types: in the Sunnites or the Sunni Muslims, and the Shia or Shiites, Shia Muslims. In this way, Sunnites today are the biggest group. As you can see, that they are mostly in North Africa dominantly, and nearby. And here in Iran, especially in surroundings, there is the Shia. At the time, of course, Persia was, or Sassanid Empire was different, and even like concerning women is a bit different. But still, from one country to another, it is really different. What else? They spread it even further because Arabs were great seafarers and merchants, and for them it was not so far to travel to Pakistan, to India, to Somalia, to Ethiopia, or Zanzibar, for example, in here. So gradually they spread it, Islam even further, and as you'll see in the maps, even to Indonesia today. If you are more interested in differences, so there are a couple, I found this table, but we are not going to analyze it, but Abu Bakr, father of prophets, favored wife Aisha, or Ali ibn Abi Talib, husband of the prophet's daughter Fatima. So the Fatima, so Aisha. So this is actually basic division, but as you see, 1 billion people, not 120 million people. So it's really, really different. Okay, now this Islamic or Arabic Caliphate has interesting history or had interesting history in here. But I will first ask Sandra if she needs something. So give me a moment. Okay, people, I'm back. Sorry for interruption again. Okay, so what I was talking about, guys, about the Islamic Caliphate or Arabic Caliphate, that they had some issues and even civil wars, and of course, with raising more and more armies, Arabic soldiers and Arabic armies became more and more powerful. Still, even during the times of Muhammad, not only did he start to create his caliphate from these two towns, but also surrounding, and start to expand within the Arabian Peninsula. And he claimed that Muhammad claimed that Muslims should spread their religion definitely. Without it, it's impossible. And either in military way, with fight, or either with persuasion, with some knowledge and discussion and so on. Still, they start to expand, and this period of Islamic Caliphate is derived from the family or the dynasty of the House of Umayyad. Umajovská ríša, Umajovský kalifát, tak to budeme ho kľudne nazývať. So what was that? Between the 7th, 8th century, by I believe 720 or something like that, uh, the center was not in Mecca or Medina, surprisingly for you if you think, but in Damascus in Syria. You know, all know the capital city of Syria, Damascus, today. And why here? Why here? As you can see in the map, the Arabic Caliphate actually used this impact of big fashionable religion that became very successful, and they start with great economy because immediately this community Suma started to trade, expand, and it helped everybody from big merchants to craftsmen to people who were looking for any kind of job, from tailors and farmers or shepherds, because suddenly you have great exchange of goods and so on. This economy helped also one thing, that when people learned how to read and write, they probably start to understand even many other things: the languages, mathematics, geography, history, philosophy, astronomy, physics, and many others. Actually, everything we have in here. So, excellent knowledge also supported culture. Culture is not only architecture and painting and sculptures, probably not so often. All architecture is in here, but it will be also sciences, it will be literature, it will be poetry and music. And all these things makes you actually a better man. And when you can cooperate, when you can use it for politics, for even in military, it allows you huge expansion, because once you conquer the town, it's very big different than, for example, they immediately, one of the things, they expanded to Jerusalem, and they took it from Byzantine Empire, all these lands, even when they invaded Egypt and Alexandria. They didn't destroy the things like barbarians, like Vandals. Later on, Christians, Crusaders. When they climbed to Jerusalem, they killed 1/3 of population. But Muslims, when they came to these towns, they actually just built up mosques, but they let Christians to have their churches, Jews to have synagogues. They only had to pay taxes, but they had to taxes. They had to taxes. Sorry, they had to pay taxes even before that. to Byzantines, to Romans. It was not such a big difference. And actually, these guys, they respected knowledge and values. So for that reason, in Alexandria, not so much, but in Jerusalem, they helped with building up schools and universities and libraries. And they were reading actually. They're actually reading also many things from Roman times that Christians didn't like very much because Aristotle, Plato, Democritus, Ptolemy, they were actually pagans for Christians, but for Muslim, okay. But probably God was speaking to them, and because of some historical circumstances, they couldn't be Christians, but their ideas could be divine. So that's why at the time Arabs had no problem to deal with chemistry, with physics, with geography, astronomy, with almost modern medicine. So that was a great thing for them. And if they pay taxes, very respectful. So people accepted their rule. It was no problem. And actually, this something what happened was Pax Romana. If you remember what I told about Roman Empire, when they claimed these territories, just like Muslims, you could travel freely without any obstacles, without and with actually countries with law, with safety, from Morocco to Pakistan, from Portugal, from Galicia, maybe to Indonesia, because all these lands were under the rule of caliphs of Damascus, of Umayyad dynasty, and it was like open for the others. Of course, there was military expansion because those who resisted they rule, so they were fighting, and those who were of different than Christianity, Judaism, they were not very tolerated with like polytheistic religions, for example, or imagine atheists, for example. Terrible for them that would be. Today it's different, of course, but not so much. Okay, the empire was called in the Arabic Caliphate, Umayyad Caliphate, and I will also show you the countries around because actually probably I didn't mention it. So they start with this expansion or something that is called the jihad. Jihad was mentioned already in the Quran, but it can be easily like interpreted as a holy war, like killing the faithless, but also it can be translated as a struggle with yourself, struggle with speaking to the others, respecting. So for many people, jihad is kind of a way, a road on kind of salvation for you and for the others too. Okay, Sandra is having fun, but this is jihad was something different. So even today, imams and theologians of Islam can explain it in different ways. So, but it's for further studying, of course. This jihad actually brought Arabs and Abrahamic Caliphate start to spread from Saudi Arabia. To Middle East, so to what it was Israel, Judea, Syria, Jordan, of course, to Iraq, and up to other lands almost to Azerbaijan, as you can see, then to North Africa from Egypt, Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, and today even further to the south, as the previous map was showing. Then the others to Persia, when these people accepted to have Persians accepted most of this Shia Islam, so it was a bit different. But again, Sunni Islam again in Afghanistan, Tajikistan, Pakistan, Kyrgyzstan even, and Turkmenistan even in here. So some of these merchants they got to Indonesia, but this is different thing. Okay, the only name I want you to remember from many famous caliphs is the Harun al-Rashid. Harun al-Rashid was probably the most famous caliph, most well known, because that was the climax, the golden age of caliphate. Actually, it was not the Umayyad anymore. It was already Abbasid Caliphate, the other ones, and it was times of at the time great king of Francia, Charles the Great or Charlemagne. We'll learn about him too, guys. We'll have it soon. And it was interesting that he also started like diplomatic contacts with him. This picture from 19th century, very inaccurate clothing of Europeans, especially of Franks and Arabs, like they are emissaries of Charles the Great, so ambassadors talking to Harun al-Rashid and starting like some like diplomatic connections. They started writing letters like pen friends. And what was interesting, they start sending like gifts to each other and like pay respect to the other kings. So they started great gifts, and this, for example, gift that monks brought from Umayyad, the Abbasid Caliphate, to King of Francia, that actually mechanical clock moved by water. So when you put water in, suddenly you have clock, and they were working. So great technological cultural scientific advance. And one of my favorite story is that Charles the Great was a passionate hunter. One of his knights was famous Saint Hubert, patron of all the hunters and foresters. And one day, that the god of when he was going to kill a beautiful big stag, so between the antlers, a cross appeared, and so he suddenly felt his divine touch and he didn't kill him. And it's like to be hunter means firstly to protect animals so you can kill some. And that's why also Charles the Great was famous like hunting for weird animals. Like he was for all his life looking for unicorns, and uh, probably that was also some stag only with one antler, but some weird animals. And when the ambassadors in one of the letters he mentioned that actually I collect some animals, and some of them are really precious, even in Europe. That he didn't kill them, but he stored them in a zoo that he made in his capital city, capital castle, rampart of in Aachen in Germany. And when Harun al-Rashid heard about this, yeah, you got the zoo animals, so I can send you. We have like all animals of the world in Arabic Caliphate because they spread from India to Africa. So they had tigers, lions, giraffes, elephants, antelopes, and whole procession parade of these guys, of these merchants, tradesmen, and emissaries came to Aachen with Charles the Great looking around with all the gifts and even elephants and animals that he could have in his zoo in Aachen in Germany. So interesting, beautiful story in my opinion. But most of the times, the contexts were not so great because within Arabic Caliphate there were many. Provinces that had to be subjected and get to hand over the taxes. Of course, for many of them, it meant rule of some other religion, maybe sometimes oppression. Not all caliphs were just open-minded like this. Some of them were more oppressive, some and so on. And this picture probably looked like some maybe propagandistic picture from first half 20th century from some of the Muslim countries where subjects of the caliph, I think it's Wahid, are is accepting the gift like payment, collect like yearly taxes from province. According to close, they could be some of these Roman Byzantine provinces, maybe in Syria or maybe Armenia. I really don't know the picture. I have to look for that. It's one of the new pictures in here. Still, Islam spread it further, and for you, I added this video. uh, I like this map, as you'll see, and thanks to YouTube, we have plenty of these videos like this. Okay, we can jump over the commercial because I don't have this ad block. So, spread of Islam, how it started, as you see, years 735, and how Arabs in the times of Muhammad are okay, spread it in Saudi Arabia and conquest of Middle East, Iraq, and going down to Persia, even to Egypt. And they used to be Christian, of those times, Roman or Roman Christian, and so on. Okay, so what else? Spreading also to Central Asia, further on, and we have 700. Look at this. And now, one of the Muslim commanders, Tariq, crossed Gibraltar Straits, and for his honor, they named the hill, the cliff above Gibraltar, Jebel al Tariq, like the rock or mountain of Tariq, Tariq al Skala, and Gibraltar is actually Jebel al Tariq. So, also their quest fall to Pakistan, to River Indus. They claim these Byzantine territories of Middle East, and as you see here in Iberian Peninsula, they established Caliphate of Cordoba, later Emir of Cordoba. We have already here of Great Moravia in here, and look at this, one of the biggest empires. Even Roman Empire was actually that was really similar, probably of it, and I think that soon we will have new sumas, as you see, around African coast, but also in India and Indonesia. But I will move it a bit to further times. Let's say this beginning, almost we are coming to the times of Crusades, and already there are some new Muslim countries in here, Seljuk Turks invading these territories, and Crusader states in here, but already Islam in Africa. Some of these lands in Asia, Southeast Asia too. But look at the spread in Africa, even in the middle of Russia, Tatars in the middle of Russia, like this. Okay. Already in Bangladesh, 900 million people. Look at this. Before great age of discoveries of Europeans, there have been already like Muslims in Indonesia, thanks to merchants in Bangladesh. Okay, attempts in Korea and China, Uyghurs, so on. Okay, we are not going to the end, but if you are interested, I can move this rather to contemporary years. So how it spread it by these years, last years. Okay, guys, that's all from the video. Thanks a lot. We can close it. When I'm here, I can check out the time. Okay, I got like 15 minutes. So I think that it will be pretty enough for the Arabic Caliphate, for the end of the Arabic Caliphate. Let's move to the dynasty of Abbas. Abbas, actually, they had been there before, already since like 740, something like that. But their climax was between this 10th and 11th century. The capital of this caliphate moved from Damascus because it was destroyed by some wars, as like today, unfortunately, because it's a really beautiful town with many sites. So the capital was built in one of the ancient times of Mesopotamia of Al-Iraq. It means a great plain in Arabic, which is Baghdad. And one of these great Abbasid caliphs, Al-Mansur, so he built this interesting round fortification in the mosque in the middle, and Baghdad became like the capital. Also in the surrounding, they built like huge city with palaces, with irrigation canals, with houses, with sewers, and even with universities. There's actually one of the oldest universities in the world that actually at the time were kind of like schools, but concerning European type universities, it was not something, but they were actually inspiration for Italian universities in Bologna, in Sorbonne, in Paris, and Oxford. We have actually students there in Sorbonne and Oxford too. Abbasid Caliphate was still culturally strong. Baghdad was kind of a capital of the world with poets and music and poetry and sciences and everything. But it was gradually torn apart because of many wars and invasions. So that was actually the decline of it. Still, in these territories, times of Great Moravia, Arabic travelers, where Muslim travelers were spreading all around, actually needed to see this presentation. I mean this map, sorry. You need to see it a different way, sorry. So I move it like this and a bit forward. Okay, sorry for that. I did this presentation only yesterday, so some new things. Okay, here you are. Okay, so what happened? So we had this Abbasid Caliphate, 800 something, and maybe that was problem to get like to this Morocco, Algeria, Cordoba. They were too far away from Baghdad. But what happened? Firstly, in Egypt, there was big uprising of special slave warrior class called Mamelukes. When somebody tells you Mameluk in Slovak, it's offense, of course, like very funny and old-fashioned. But Mamelukes were former slave warriors of Arabic Caliphate that were present in Egypt, and they were trained as special soldiers. For them, it was actually good to be these guys because they had some advantages, and gradually they were seizing in a lot of power and possession, sometimes freedom. Instead of freedom, they prefer this having money and women and power. So they created a whole warrior class that was not only the bodyguards of the caliphs and emirs, that's like lower hierarchy nobility of the caliphate. So they realized they can rule there, and in Egypt they made big uprising that some of these Mamelukes, they start to call themselves sultans, seized the power and proclaimed their own sultanate, Mamlutsky Sultanate. And this is the way that they actually, when they seized independence, of course, the Baghdad caliphs couldn't defeat them, so they interrupted this like connection with the African caliphates and emirates. So they start to proclaim also their own sultanate. So sultan is becoming another title in a hierarchy of Muslim nobility or states, and it's not caliph. Caliph is something like Caesar, Pope, Emperor together at once. But those who are like separated sultans, they are, let's say, like emperors, but they don't have any religious power in this way. if you know what I mean. So that's why Sultanate will be later on used by Seljuk Turks, by Ottoman Turks. Okay, in Morocco, even today there is Sultanate in Morocco. We call it kingdom, but his title is Sultan of Morocco. So this is something different, something new that you should know maybe for you. Okay, in this way, now Morocco, Algeria remain like separated. So they also proclaim their own sultanate, these Aghlabids and Idrisids. Idrisoci, Aghlaboci, and also in Iberian Peninsula, still there were this Umayyad dynasty, but they call themselves according to capital of these Iberian Mar territories because they didn't call themselves Arabs but Moors, like Moroccans. And these Moors, they had the name for this Caliphate of Cordoba. Later on, it was only Emirate of Cordoba, and eventually, until 1492, it was Emirate of Granada, because in Cordoba would be reclaimed by Christian kingdoms of Castile, Aragon, Navarra, and many Portugal, and many others, finally creating to Spain in 1492. So as you can see, it's interesting stories. Abbasid, couple of pictures in here, what I wanted to show you. So first picture in here depicts some scene from any port of Arabic Muslim world with a lot of ships, fishermen ships. They're excellent seafarers, very often forgotten. But thanks to their like navigation skills in the seas, even Spanish and Portuguese navigators copied many styles. Look at this astrolabe, sextant. These devices, these gadgets were used by Portuguese like a couple of centuries after Muslim scholars invented them for geography and navigation in the seas. Latin sails, and of course trade is in here. It was not only that the Abbasid Caliphate was one of the biggest empires in the world. As you can see, Frankia in here, Byzantine Empire, Khazar Khaganate. I told you about the Empire of Tiang or Uyghur Khaganate. So some of the biggest. So for them, from their point of view, they were in the middle of the world. So in this map, like you can see, they built up many trade routes, and actually their northern parts of Caliphate where was the Silk Road. Okay, and they led them to China. But for them, even this heavy load, you can actually take camels like this, or you can just put like this heavy load on the ships and sail it from like Mecca is like a couple of hundreds of kilometers to the sea, or from Aden is another of the cities, and to sail to Persia, to Gulf, Bay of Gulf, even from Baghdad, you can sail directly to Indian Ocean. It's much closer than to sail and get travel to Mediterranean Sea to meet with Byzantines and Franks. So in this way, Arabs, centuries before Europeans got to India, around Africa, so they had intense trade with India, with Southeast Asia, islands of spices in Indonesia, Malaysia, truly Asia. It's the slogan of tourism, but even with China. From the north as along the Silk Road, and from the south as navigators, trade routes. Thanks to them, they had many inventions and contributions to technologies, and it was really interesting to see of them. From many other things, I picked up this guy, Javi bin Hayyan. You don't have to remember him, but he was the one who, as the first one, he was able to he found a way how to make a glass, not only bottles or jars, but he used it as a special forms of banks used for chemistry, and they start to call this like mixing the matters, analyzing the materials, and looking for the matters and their interaction, alchemia, alchemistry or alchemistra, which means alchemy or chemistry. So he's the founder of modern chemistry, the guys. Okay, many other stuff that you have in here, but I will mention in the end of the lesson. How the Arabic Caliphate, and the Caliphates more because now we have more of them, or sultanates too. How did they fall? So the Baghdad Abbasid Caliphate that was in here fell gradually under attacks of every century different nation or realm attack them. First, these guys in here, these ones are Seljuk Turks. We have two famous Turkic nations in Anatolia, nowadays Turkey. Before Ottoman, contemporary Turks came established their kingdoms, they were Seljuks. Seljuks, well, we're like big invasion of guys who as a nomadic tribe, they accepted Islam, but they didn't mind to fight for the power. And a couple of times they take these territories, they claim even Baghdad, and these dynasties of Fatimids and Abbasid, they had to fight them. Then, during these wars between Turks and Arabs, because it's not the same, Turkic ethno-linguistic group is very different from Arabic. It's not Semitic, it's this Uralic, and actually even today Magyars, Hungarians claim some connection with Turkic language. There is estimation of Slovak historians that one of seven Magyar or Hungarian tribes could have had this Turkic origins in here. But what happened? That during these wars, Jerusalem was once claimed by Arabs, once by Turks, and so on. At the same time, they claimed much bigger territories, I mean Turks, from Byzantines, for which Byzantine Emperor Alexios I asked the Pope from Rome for help. That was like exception, and he organized so-called Crusades, Križiacké výpravy. In the 12th century, especially the end of 1099, so 12th century especially, the European Crusaders actually invaded the Seljuk Sultanate. They couldn't defeat them, and they claimed these Arabic lands around Jerusalem. And for about 2.5 centuries, actually one and a half century, they managed to build small crusader states, and for them it was again another attack. Okay, actually at the end of the 12th century, one of these Baghdad caliphs, Salah ad-Din, he unified Arabs and he conquered Jerusalem. So that is also moving the kingdom of heaven in here. But what happened later on at the second half of the 13th century, Mongols, another completely different nation from Asia, we'll learn about them a lot because they created the biggest empire in the world of those times. So they invaded also the Caliphate of Baghdad and they destroyed it in such a terrible way, just like many other countries, that they couldn't restore their power again. The remains of this Baghdad Caliphate was attacked by Mongols. We have them in here, and finally by these guys. And this was second branch of Turks, called according to the founder of Emirate and the Sultanate of Osman the First. In the city of Bursa in Turkey nowadays, actually near the Marmarian Sea. So they establish a small emirate, they start to expand, and thanks to usage of fire guns, fire weapons, they were also Muslim. They start to expand. Firstly, they conquered Byzantine territories. Next lesson, I will show you also how they claim all these lands. And this is like in 1481, and you see that green is acquisitions to 1500. So these were the times when still caliphs in Syria, in Damascus, in Baghdad were there, but gradually Ottomans, after conquest of Byzantine Empire, overruled even Arabic land. So what may be surprising for you that in 1521, when the Turks were already fighting for 1 or 2 centuries against Kingdom of Hungary, so they were only to attack Arabic lands of original caliphate. And this is important thing because now finally in 14th century Ottoman Turks destroyed the caliphate and occupied all Arabic lands gradually, including Iraq, only Persia, just like many times they could defend. And until the 20th century, the Ottoman Empire was ruling in here, and thus keeping ruling about Mecca, Medina, Jerusalem, Damascus, Baghdad, Egypt. So Turks were supposed to be like the rulers about Arabs too. The thing is that they were Muslims too, and Turks were using Muslim script. So this is interesting that they had actually also the title of sultans, but at the same time they felt themselves like the caliphs. And that's why, for that reason, when Arabs were under the rule of Ottomans, if they were okay with not nationality, so they're fine that the Muslims are united. But once there was not, so they were fighting like Persians. There were many uprisings, especially in Iraq, in Kurdistan, and later on in 20th century, Arabs decided to fight against Ottoman Turks. British army supported them. Famous agent, journalist, archaeologist, and historian Lawrence of Arabia, and they managed to keep independence for Saudi Arabia in 1919. So this is really interesting, guys. I would say interesting. What I wanted to show you, forgot to show you, I believe I have some time, was one link that is hidden behind my face. So let's have a look. But I think you'll find some websites about general. Okay, I got like 2 minutes, so it will be very quickly. Okay, yeah, when I was searching for many pictures, I found like some nice websites, and if you'll need some more information about them, so check out this page. It's really cool, facts and details, and I found it really cool. What I didn't find in here, what I didn't find, and you needed sources for that. So this is only bad thing about it. So it was interesting. So check it out. Okay, 1 minute to go. So very quickly, guys. Very quickly, that was the fall of the Arabic Caliphate. What was the contribution of Arabic and Muslim culture? Plenty of them, from many inventions around and things that commodities products that they could trade or they invented. They preserved some of them from ancient Egypt, from ancient Greece. They invented some of them like by themselves, taking care of the others, having the script and religion, ornament, astronomy, invented chess, this Persian one, algebra, mathematics. So there are plenty of them in here. So medieval Arabic culture was the most advanced in the world at that time, with philosophy of Avicenna or Ibn Sina, art, architecture, monks and their beautiful palaces, with geography, astronomy, with mathematics. They were the guys who introduced Arabic numbers. Try to count equations with Roman numbers. It would be impossible. They invented zero, introduced it to mathematics. In medicine, Avicenna, he was a Persian, probably, maybe Jewish, we don't know, but in Isfahan, in Persia, he was like promoting. So at that time, they were also the most tolerant religion. They called Christian and Jews like the people of the book. So as I said, jihad had more symbolic meaning, of course. And as I said, as valuing knowledge. So they also translated scripts of Greek philosophers that were being burned in Europe at the time and preserved antique culture knowledge for the Renaissance later on. So if you check out for contributions, that would be so many of them, including travelers talking about our lands, that we have like rare historical documents and even movies shot, but it's not with this, but about Slavic people, and many people living in here. So that's why I added the link about the movie about real historical personality of Ambassador Ibn Fadlan, and his description of Slavic peoples and Russians. So that was interesting. This is my opinion, guys, about why Islam for many people could be depicted in here in different way, and why secularism can really change a lot in the country, like concerning to religion, especially this medieval religion. When you're under oppression, when you have no chance for industrial revolution, for secular reform, or just resources, if you still have them, you can end up just like Saudi Arabia, with a rich country but being like monarchy with restricted law system that is not free at all for many people. Despite of beautiful videos about Arabic culture and beautiful collection of Arabic nights that you're going to describe in your assignment, which I'm really looking forward from the Aladdin, Alibaba, or jinns and many other stuff, flying carpets, but even a lot of sexual affairs, erotic parts in Arabic Nights originals, not for kids, because that's the point. Next lesson, guys, we are going to deal with Byzantine Empire, which will be probably another lesson. Thanks a lot, sorry for 1.5 minute extra. So stay negative in tests, positive in the mind, and don't worry if your parents have chance to get vaccinated, so tell them to go so we can go back to school soon. Bye bye. Have a nice day.